Why take FPL advice from one expert when you can take advice from 100 of them? Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan and the experts are here to help us out for these final few game weeks of the season, ready with their Game Week 36 transfers and captaincy moves. So once again, a shout out to our experts, once again, all 100 of them who volunteered their data for this week's video. We have actually got FPL OZL, the number 4 in the world for FPL right now, which is crazy. He's going to be helping us out with his data each week from here on. So we've got some great FPL managers who have volunteered their data, and we can get a good idea of what the expert trends are for this week. Looking forward to sharing this with you guys. So it's another big week for transfers, guys, this week. I know you guys may have been waiting for the expert's opinion before making your own moves, but if you've got a spare transfer going, it might be time to use it, as 62% of our experts will indeed be making a transfer this week, with 18% actually making 2 transfers. We've got 3% making 3 or more transfers, so if you've got a couple of spare transfers, or maybe you even want to take a hit, you will be in good company this week. Just one wild card being used this week among our experts, with the majority of our experts having already used their wild cards up for this season now. Very, very few left, but just one being used this week. It might even be the last one. We do, however, have 16% of our experts making no transfers this week. It is a small but not insignificant number. So if your team is looking in good shape right now, it could be an opportunity to roll, but the general trends do suggest that we do need to make some transfers this week. And there is actually a slight shift in the template that we will be covering later on in the video that you guys may need to be aware of. So let's start off with the global top picks and whether our experts agree with these transfers or not. We do see over 200,000 people transferring in Kevin De Bruyne at time of recording. Maybe our experts will be waiting on some potential early team news before committing to this one, but certainly he is a player who is also very popular among experts, as is Wissa, Wood and Elanga on this list. We also see some interest in the likes of Mbermo, Cunha and Bowen. However, not much change on the likes of Gavardio, Nori and Sharda here as well, which is, yeah, kind of interesting again. So, but in general, what I would definitely say is the global transfers seem to be roughly aligned with the experts this week, although there is always a slightly different order of priority pick when it comes to the experts. The experts do things slightly differently, and that's why they are doing so well in FPL this season. We are, of course, going to share the average rank and the kind of rank spread of the experts right now as well. Looking through these transfers out, and you can see that one man stands above them all. Mateta has been a little disappointing recently, and he is, of course, a player for a Crystal Palace side who are due to play the FA Cup final at the same time as many of the Game Week 37 fixtures, and as such, we could start to see some rotation in the Crystal Palace camp. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to happen this week specifically, but it is no secret that Crystal Palace players may be needing to be sold over the next couple of weeks, and the experts certainly agree with that. 45 transfers out. He was 75% owned last week, which means around 2/3 of Mateta owners will be selling him this week among the upper echelons of FPL managers. But we also do see Isak with a few transfers out himself. 11 transfers out for him. He was slightly higher owned in Game Week 35 with 89% ownership, but still a little drop here, and maybe we are seeing Isak moving out of the template ahead of some tougher fixtures. And he's not the only Newcastle player with these tough fixtures ahead of him, including Chelsea in Game Week 36, because we do see Jacob Murphy, 7 transfers out for him as well. About 1/3 of experts will be removing him from their FPL team, and a small decrease in the ownership in Livramento as well, with 4 transfers out. We also see a few Rashford sellers, with him looking to be injured for this week, possibly back in Game Week 37, but of course he will be ineligible to play in Game Week 38 against his parent club, Manchester United. So he could be a player you need to remove if you do have him in your team. And aside from that, a few transfers out for various other players. 4 transfers out for Saka, 4 for Savinho, and of course we have Ismaila Sarr, another Crystal Palace player, with a few transfers out. Just 3, though, out of his 67% ownership, which actually is a very, very small percentage of Ismaila Sarr owners actually looking to sell him. And it could be that it is because Crystal Palace about to play Spurs, very high line, very attacking team, and probably going to be playing with a weakened team as well as they focus on Europa League. And therefore, could Ismaila Sarr get some joy running in behind the Spurs defense? I think that's definitely a possibility, and maybe the reason why so many of our experts are choosing to keep Sarr ahead of this game week. Just 3 transfers out. It's not too many. But we do have a couple of transfers out for some Liverpool players here as well. Konate and Salah with 2 transfers out each as well. Yeah, Salah 100% owned. Nobody has sold him yet. There was some murmurings that some of our experts might be selling Salah, but it seems this week that it might actually happen. Let's see if they have the guts to go through with the Salah sale as we approach the Game Week 36 deadline. And as we approach the halfway point of the video, if you guys haven't liked the video yet, please do. It really does help out the channel so much, and it's really helpful to keep this series running. It is a little bit of work to do all of the data for you guys for this video to make sure you get all of the best expert tips on this channel. And of course, guys, if you do want to follow along with the FPL expert tips every single game week and guarantee yourself a great rank at the end of the season, make sure you do hit that subscribe button, and you can follow along for the rest of the season and indeed for next season too. Now, let's have a look at who is being transferred in. And just like in the sell category, we have a big player standing out in the buy category as well. So we got a very clear idea of where the FPL expert template, groupthink, whatever you want to call it, where the general mindset is right now, because Wissa is at the #1 spot here for transfers in for Game Week 36. 40 of our experts will be transferring him in this week. That is in addition to the 21% who already owned him last game week, which will mean the majority of the top FPL managers will have Yoane Wissa in their FPL team for Game Week 36. Maybe in addition to Brian Mbeumo, who was the top transfer in among experts last game week. So we've got some clear trends towards these Brentford boys as they look to face Ipswich in Game Week 36. But he's not the only player on this list. Chris Wood, pretty significant numbers here as well. 17 transfers in for the Nottingham Forest striker. And after that, we see a couple of midfielders. De Bruyne, if you fancy going expensive, 9 new transfers in for him, in addition to the 33 who already owned him. And 8 new transfers in for Elanga, maybe taking the midfield route to that Nottingham Forest attack. A few transfers in for Cunha here, 7 transfers in. But interestingly, we also did have a couple of transfers out for Cunha that weren't listed on the last page because they didn't fit on the graphic. But still, Cunha is not just being bought, but he's also being a little bit sold as well. Maybe our experts are disagreeing among themselves for Cunha, or maybe they just want Wissa even more. I think that's probably the case here. I would say definitely if you are a Cunha owner already and you're looking to move towards the template to try and solidify your place at the top of your mini leagues, then Wissa is definitely a move you could think about selling Cunha. But in general, I think Cunha is going to be a keep. Surely, if more experts are buying him than selling him, then he's got to be in this buy category, surely. Brian Mbeumo, 7 new transfers in for him. He was the big move last week among our experts, if you guys have been following along with the series. But a few more looking to pick him up this week as his ownership gets higher and higher, closing in on that 90% mark. Nico Williams seems to be the defender of choice. When we look at these Nottingham Forest defenders, it does seem to be that Williams is the standout guy. Cheaper than the others, puts up some really good attacking numbers as well, and maybe is a slightly better option at a slightly cheaper price than the likes of Milenkovic and Aina, which maybe the overall player base would gravitate towards Milenkovic and Aina because they've scored more points over the course of the season. But Williams, since he's been regularly playing for Nottingham Forest, seems to be that guy. So very popular move here. But of course, Milenkovic and Aina do have some interest too. Jared Bowen also still interesting. He was another big move last week, but 3 new transfers in for him should take his ownership closer to that 50% mark. So what does this mean for the expert template? Well, not too much change in the defensive areas and goalkeepers. However, Nico Williams is now joint with Livramento at 26% ownership going into Game Week 26. So I put Nico Williams on this particular graphic because it seems like the trend is towards Nico Williams and away from Livramento. So Nico is probably our template guy at this point. Small shifts in most of the midfield positions. However, Jared Bowen enters into this midfield template up to 46% ownership now. And actually, what is pretty interesting here is that De Bruyne is not too far off Bowen's ownership as well. So it seems that potentially some of our experts going for De Bruyne, some of our experts going for Bowen. So maybe you have to pick your poison here. Which one would you prefer to go for? It seems like De Bruyne is the more popular transfer in this week, but overall, Bowen does have that higher ownership. And up front, Marmoush and Isak are still in the template, despite a little bit of a drop for Isak. However, Mateta has been booted from the expert template team and replaced with new man Yohan Wissa for game week 36 ahead of this Ipswich game. The average game week 35 score for our experts was 52.1 points. Let me know if you beat the experts average in game week 35. And the average rank is finally in the top 100k. We knew the cream would always rise to the top. This was always bound to happen. We didn't know how long it would take, but certainly we now see a really nice high average rank here, which is great to see. Also, I know some people have been kind of asking in the comments, can an expert really be considered an expert if they finish outside the top 1 million places? Well, I'm pleased to say that 100% of the experts are now within the top 1 million at least. And we also have 50% now in the top 100k as well, with an incredible 19% in the top 10,000 places as well, which is a really incredibly good rank to be at. But I think, again, these numbers are only going to improve as we go into the final few game weeks. Trust the process, guys. The experts really do know what they're doing, even if you are a little bit doubtful earlier on in the season. Like I say, the cream does rise to the top, and you can rise with them by following along with these videos. Let's make some suggested transfers here. So let's go for combo transfers first of all. And it seems like a lot of the combo transfers among experts involve bringing in some kind of expensive midfielder in replacement of maybe a cheaper midfielder. So if you've got a Savinho or a Murphy or maybe a Rashford who you are looking to remove from your team and you want to replace them with a De Bruyne or an Mbeumo, well, something's got to give. Someone's got to be sacrificed, and it's going to most likely be one of those more expensive forwards like Isak and Mateta. Now, of course, if you can do it by sacrificing Mateta, great. But if you do need that little bit of extra money to pull out of the forward position in order to upgrade the midfield position, then it could actually be that Isak is the guy to be sacrificed. And when looking through the combo transfers among experts this week, a lot of them did involve removing Isak rather than Mateta, just because you get more money from selling Isak compared to Mateta. So that is a big reason why some people are selling Isak. It is about money. It is about budget. For those direct transfers, we can go nice and simple. If you've got Mateta or, again, possibly Isak that you want to remove, Wissa and Wood seem to be the top two replacements for him. Of course, Cunha is still in that conversation, but Wissa is massively leading the line. Wood has some significant trends there as well. So this is probably where the experts would direct your attention to. Wissa and then Wood. After that, we can have a look at some midfielders to replace. If you've got a Murphy and a Sarr that you maybe want to replace, Alanga is probably going to be the guy to replace them as a direct transfer move, assuming you can't afford to go to a Mbeumo or a De Bruyne. And of course, if you do have the likes of Saka still in your team, he can be easily sacrificed for, again, De Bruyne or Mbeumo. And finally, if you're looking to make a defender switch this week, you've got Livramento in your team maybe. Nico Williams is going to be that defensive replacement that we're all looking for this game week. And at last, it is time to have a look at the captains for game week 36. What are our experts thinking? Well, it's actually, it's not unanimous, but there is a very clear trend, a very, very clear trend. So if you are just wondering, who should I captain this week? I don't want to overthink this one. I want to go sensible. I want to go safe. I want to just make sure I'm hitting the right marks this week. Then look no further than Brian and Mbeumo. 69% of our experts will be captaining Brian this game week against Ipswich away. And that is out of the 89 owners that we are projecting for this game week after transfers have been made. So yes, the majority of those who have picked up Mbeumo will be captaining him this week. But he is not the only option here. If you do want to try something a little bit different, De Bruyne at 17% is not too bad either. Only 42% of our experts will have him in game week 36. So actually 17 out of 42, that's actually not such a bad number. That is at least something there. Chris Wood is next. 5 out of 22 owners will be captaining him in game week 36. And that brings us down to Marmoush, who has really slipped down in the estimation of experts. Playing on the right-hand side in game week 35 didn't really look like it was doing it for him. And of course, we are wondering whether Haaland could get some minutes to maybe eat into Marmoush's potential here. So even though 96% of our experts will have Marmoush in their team in game week 36, only 2 of them will actually be looking to actually captain him for this game week, which 3 out of 96, that's not very many. Sorry, 3, it's pretty insignificant here. So it definitely does look like the experts are trending towards Mbeumo, De Bruyne, and Wood rather than Marmoush. Maybe previously, we would have thought Marmoush would be higher in the estimations. I should note at this point, 4% of our experts are using the triple captain chip this week. Maybe you guys still have that lying around. 3 of them will be using it on Mbeumo, and 1 of them will be using it on De Bruyne. So that kind of checks out on the numbers we are seeing on screen right now. But if you want to go hyper differential, you might not be alone. 2 of our experts are looking to captain Gavardio, hoping for another clean sheet and bonus points from him. We've got 2 on Wissa as well. I know people will think, you know, if you can go for Mbeumo, why can't you go for Wissa? I think we all just kind of tend to agree, or the experts certainly do, that Mbeumo has that higher ceiling. He has those penalties. He gets the extra points for a goal. He gets the extra points for a clean sheet. So if you're looking for the mega score, it's more likely that Mbeumo will get that mega score. And Wissa is more a player who ticks along very nicely. Much, maybe a better floor, but maybe not the same kind of ceiling that Mbeumo has. And finally, 2 1%ers, Elanga and, yeah, Salah. There is some people out there who you cannot rip the armband off of Salah. They will captain him no matter what. But it certainly seems that even though 98% of our experts will own Salah in game week 36, just 1 captain on him probably suggests that that's not the place to go. So how do we conclude this one, guys? Bryan Mbeumo is the obvious captain for you this week if you don't want to overthink it. But if you want to try something different, De Bruyne and Wood look like the best alternatives according to our expert data this week. Of course, if you guys have any other questions about the expert data, what the experts' opinions are on various things, let me know down in the comments and I'll try and go through the data and see if I can figure out any answers for you guys. And of course, any other FPL related questions, I'd be more than happy to help. But if you enjoyed this one, drop a like. Do subscribe if you want to follow along for the rest of the season and indeed for next season. But until tomorrow's video, thank you so much for watching and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.